It's understandable the mistrust that many black people have because of what happened in Tuskegee. I made a statement and I took this as my platform. Elect me mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, and never again will we allow the federal government, the state government, or any other governmental body to come into Tuskegee, Alabama and take advantage of our people. That was my platform, and I meant it. But there is no reason in 2021 for any American to say that I'm not going to take the vaccine because of what happened in Tuskegee. In this day and time, black scientists, black doctors are involved in the development of the vaccine. They are involved in helping to shape the public policy, which makes it possible for this vaccination program to be administered to the American people. John Lewis talked about good trouble, fighting racism, fighting hunger, fighting inadequate health care, fighting COVID. It's a war, and you have to fight it just like you would fight any other war. I'm willing to go to jail. I'm willing to die for it. I'm willing to struggle for it because it is right. The struggle goes on.
We don't duck and dodge. Ain't no Edward Waters on my schedule. 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 Ain't no Edward Waters on my schedule.
Just saying. We think Coach Maynard, we're gonna let you have the last word in terms of Alabama A&M fans. But anything that you want to share with the viewers, any last thoughts you want to share?
Did I want to share?
Yeah.
Oh, go Bulldogs! Hey, baby, y'all tune in ESPN this week, and we're gonna try to make you proud and give you a good show, offensive, defensive, special teams, and represent the way the Bulldogs represent.
Don't worry, it's all a part of the game. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern for Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Course, lecture, dismissed.
The inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic is personal to me. It's more than a matchup between Tuskegee University and Fort Valley State University. My beloved father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, was a proud member of the Tuskegee Airmen. 922 brave pilots, also known as the Red Tails, fought in World War II. The Boeing Red Tails Classic is more than a celebration of HBCUs. It's a reminder of the Tuskegee Airmen's valor and sacrifice, the first class of black fighter pilots who trained at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama during the height of Jim Crow, fighting for America, while in many ways America fought right back against them. This inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic, this football game, is for them. And it's quite special that this game, which will be played at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, opens the 2021 college football season on Sunday, September 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. When you watch this game, please remember its larger meaning, that it's for a group who advocated for themselves while still facing prejudice and discrimination in the segregated Army. The Tuskegee Airmen story hardly gets told enough. I, proud daughter of a Tuskegee Airman, join others who champion their legacy and how they influence generations of black cultural and political leaders.
But my beats, they are hard.
All right. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to a live edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan Fulford, AD Drew. We are all the way live, and man, we are pumped up. We've got football games to talk about. We told you no more Saturdays, no more dead Saturdays without football. Man, it was good to actually be at a game, see everything that goes. I mean, just the pageantry of football, whether you were watching it on TV, whether you were in Columbus or Atlanta or with us in Jacksonville. Man, we hope you had a great time. And if your team didn't play, get ready. I mean, I know there's a lot going on in the world, but, man, if you can do it safely, it's time to get out and start enjoying Black college football, just football in general. Drew, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing fine, my brother. And, before we get started, I want to send a shout out to all those people down in South Louisiana, Southern Mississippi, and everybody who is going to be affected by this currently Category 4 storm as it hit shore earlier this afternoon. So especially our brother Carlos Brown in Baton Rouge expected to get hard, and anybody else in the path of this storm.
Yeah, definitely. Hurricane Ida is on land. And so having we just pray that, you know, anyone who might be in that path. And I was reading a report that the New Orleans mayor felt like they didn't have enough time to really adequately evacuate people because it moved so fast on them. So, you know, we just hope for everyone's safety. And then, of course, the hard part is going to be, you know, once it starts to move up into the Mississippi and then the Tennessee region and wherever it goes from there. I think the models say it's supposed to head up into the Ohio Valley area over into the East Coast towards the latter part of the week. So everyone just be safe, you know, look out for each other. That's about the best we can do and ask for. As it relates to, you know, what kind of effect this might have on teams. Obviously, you know, a lot of campuses will be closed tomorrow, Tuesday even. Hopefully some of the campuses in that, South Louisiana, maybe even Southern.
We got Southern directly affected.
Yeah, obviously Southern. I was thinking Southern Mississippi is where I was thinking. Maybe even some spots of Alabama might even be affected. And those areas those schools might even be, campuses might be shut down. So, which obviously will take away from, you know, it's secondary, but, you know, we're a sports show. We're kind of talking about it. So it'll take away from practice times from those schools that have to play. So minor inconvenience in the big picture of life. You know, you just want everyone to be safe. And then I'm sure with everything everyone's had to deal with over the last year and a half, I think we can manage. I think programs will find a way to manage and deal with this just like they've dealt with everything else. I want to thank you for watching the show. If you're watching us, wherever you're watching us, on YouTube, if you're watching us on our website, mybcsn.net, if you're streaming us on Facebook or Twitter, make sure you are logged in to, like and subscribe wherever you're watching us, however you're consuming make sure you stay a part of the Black College Sports Network. We've got plenty of shows throughout the week, all different kinds of news, reviews, different angles. There's a host of shows. And so we've got a full schedule this week as we move out of week 0 and into what many call the first official week. Although I felt like last week, and I can say last week was an official week.
We
right?
had games. It's official.
Yeah.
That's officially an L for somebody, and that's officially a W for somebody.
Right.
So
exactly.
I don't need to know how much more official we need to get.
Yes, exactly. It officially counts as an L in the loss for those schools who lost games. So definitely it counts. Don't let that marketing stuff by the 4-letter network fool you. Those games counted, definitely. So we got a full show ahead of you today. We're going to have coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to talk with our good friend Charles Bishop as they get ready. He and Neely of the Pregame show get ready to hype you guys up and talk to you about the new upcoming series, Coach Prime. That'll be on Barstool Sports. So if you haven't seen that preview or the commercial for that, I'm sure Drew will be playing that, if not coming into the next break at some point during our show. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure that'll be coming up, but we'll talk to Charles about that. Also coming up later, Charles Edmond, the voice of Alcorn State Sports. He can tell us what the heck happened to Alcorn. A lot of us took a big hit in the pockets. A lot of egos were dashed, but the MEAC stayed strong, man. North Carolina Central doing a lot of crow. What is that? Take the medicine? What is that?
This is some medicine, because it seems like Alcorn and the SWAC and the thermometer, Alcorn and the SWAC are allergic to the city of Atlanta. So they need to take some medicine next time they go to Atlanta so they can perform better.
Okay, I saw you with that on Doc's show this morning. And I just laughed because I didn't know what the hell that was. Like, what is Drew got a thermometer? What is he doing? Yeah, that's 3 straight losses for Alcorn State. So we'll talk to Charles Edmond about that. And then in the second hour of the show, we got our good friend Kris Ferguson coming in to talk to us as the CIAA will get to their slate of games. They've got a couple of teams playing on Thursday, and we'll talk to Kris. Of course, he covers the CIAA for D2football.com. I know he's happy to actually be talking about football, and so we'll get a chance to catch up with him about the upcoming season and just some of the games heading into week 1. So, Drew, score updates. Let's see. We had Kentucky State with a 20-6 win over Central State in the I'm trying to make sure I say the name right of this classic because I think I've said it wrong on 2 different occasions. This was the Classic for Columbus in Columbus, Ohio, played in the Horseshoe where Ohio State plays. Another dominating win by Kentucky State. Look, I don't know if I said I want to see a Kentucky State versus Savannah State matchup in the SIC championship, but I think I may start rooting for that. I know you can't do that, but I think I'm going to start rooting for that. Kentucky State thoroughly dominated Central State for what's now the 15th of the last 16 meetings Kentucky State has won. Even when Kentucky State had a bad season, the only time Kentucky State did not beat Central State, they went winless. So, I mean, that in an entire season. So that just tells you, even in the lean years for Kentucky State, they still find a way to beat Central State. And so it's just been a bloodbath. And they've done it in all kinds of places, man. They've beaten Central State in Indianapolis. They beat them in Wilberforce. They beat them in Frankfurt. Now they're beating them in Columbia. I mean, they're beating them all over the Midwest, man. I mean, Kentucky State. I mean, where else do you want to go? Where else, Central State? Where else you want to go to get beat by Kentucky State? I know that's I'm sorry to say that, but that's just kind of how it's been rolling lately. And of course, we had the game that we were at, Edward Waters University. Make sure you say it right now. Edward Waters University with a 24-20 win over Florida Memorial University. A game that was slow in the first half, but thanks to a lightning delay, it sort of put a charge in the whole second half of that game. We had points in each quarter, every half, had an exciting fourth quarter. A lot to talk about there. And then, of course, the nightcap. Let's just go ahead and call it like it is. Biggest surprise of the night for most people, except for the people in North Carolina at North Carolina Central. And that would be North Carolina Central's win over Alcorn State by a score of 24-13, I believe is the final score on that one, right, Drew?
Yeah, look, Bryan, everybody in Black media owes the people in Durham, North Carolina, an apology. I did not hear one
but the
pundit.
Coaching staff, the coaching staff at Central. Yeah, definitely. We all picked the. Now, look, I'm gonna tell you what. I honestly think that game should be a great reminder for people. Look, neither team played for some 600 days. Alcorn hadn't played in 616 days. I think I saw North Carolina Central hadn't played in 630 something days. So neither team had played, but coming into that game, who's the team that everyone was talking about was who? Everyone was talking about Alcorn. And that should have been sort of a tip-off. If you are one of those people that fades the public, so to speak, you know what I'm talking about? That was a fade the public game because the public was heavy on Alcorn State, and that should have been a big tip-off that, wait a minute, North Carolina Central didn't lose, their top running back. They didn't lose a quarterback who was pretty good in spurts in 2019. They got a new coach, and they've been with that coach for a whole year now. And everybody's talking and chirping about Alcorn. Alcorn this, Alcorn that. Polls have got them ranked anywhere from 2 to 5, anywhere in the preseason polls, right? Yeah, that should have been a good heads up for anyone out there. So be leery this weekend, week 1. First rule of advice: if the public is rolling heavy on a team, just stop and ask yourself, why is nobody talking about that other team? And this is college. I think this is college where sometimes coaches and players can really play that disrespect card, and it actually means something on game day.
Yeah, and even though we only found one line on the game, but some of these other sites that use analysis but not official betting sites had the game start off at 6.5 for Alcorn. And then what did we say? It closed at 13.5, Bryan?
It may have closed at 15. I know it was about 15, maybe about an hour or a half hour before kickoff.
Right. So, and North Carolina Central, there I go with the disrespect right there myself. Central did the exact thing that they needed to do. They ran the ball, shortened the game, and created turnovers.
Yeah.
And they made Felix Harper throw the ball.
Yeah, he, and watching and going back and watching that game, there were moments where he didn't look comfortable. And obviously we'll talk to Charles, and that probably had a lot to do with some of the issues with their offensive line. But I was surprised that they went away from the run because I think they discovered a second back at Alcorn. And so now I don't think it'll be just the Nico Duffy show. They now have a second back that is going to be legitimate. And obviously you still have the offensive weapon with the quarterback and receivers. But, if the offensive line, there were just bad mistakes at certain times. And that's to be expected. But the old cliche, the team that makes the fewest mistakes is the team that usually wins ball games. And
that did not happen down in Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because, yes, there were a lot of mistakes, but that game was a pretty even ball game. You know, I was looking at the stats earlier as we kind of flipped to that game. Both teams, in terms of total yardage, 329 to 325, Florida Memorial to Edward Waters. Edward Waters had the rushing with 213, Florida Memorial the passing at 206. Both teams, let me see, there was a key stat or two that I was most interested in as I was watching and looking at the team stats. Total plays, 60 for Edward Waters, 59 for Florida Memorial. Yards per play, 5.6 to 5.4. You know, both teams fumbled 3 times and they lost 2 fumbles each. Florida Memorial had, I believe, 1 interception. Yeah, 1 interception, and Edward Waters had 3. You know, but one team had a punt return for a touchdown. The other team had a super
asterisk by that one.
What do you mean asterisks?
Another team had 2 punt returns, with 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown, but some handkerchiefs kind of took that one away.
Yeah, well, the penalties. Funny you mentioned the penalties. They weren't too far apart from each other. One team had 8 penalties for 98 yards. The other team had 6 for 40. So I mean, look, it was a fairly even ball game that literally came down to the last possession. You know, and the momentum swings, was the difference. You know, when you made that fumble or when you made that mistake, happen. You know, for Florida Memorial, here they are with a 13-point lead in the third quarter, and defensively they do a good job, I thought, of slowing and forcing Edward Waters.
Their defense played outstanding.
Yeah,
what killed them was their special teams. If their special teams perform, they actually win that game going away, but they let the quote unquote better team stay around long enough to get their confidence and get going. And the block punt at the end of the third quarter was the ultimate special teams collapse, which led to that second touchdown for Edwards. Was that the first touchdown?
You're talking about the
at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah, well, with about 3:52 left to play. Yeah, Florida Memorial's up 13-0. Yeah, that
was the first touchdown, and it was game on from that point on.
You're right. That's where the momentum kicked in, because at that point you're down 13, and at that point Edward Waters picks up, a touchdown, then comes back in the fourth with another drive that leads to a field goal, and then following a Florida Memorial fumble on a beautiful hit by a defensive back on a running back, just perfect helmet on the ball, forced a fumble. Edward Waters marches right back down the field 8 plays later and scores a touchdown. That all of a sudden the momentum had swung right there, and they had scored 17 straight points to grab a 17-13 lead, and that's your momentum swing you mentioned. And also you mentioned special teams. Florida Memorial missed 2 field goals. You talk about those special teams that hurt them. They missed those 2 field goals. And but look, hey, in the fourth quarter, we had 3 lead changes. 3 lead changes. We had Edward Waters taking that lead 17-13. Florida Memorial comes back and answers nearly 3 minutes later with a beautiful 39-yard pass from Antoine Williams to Calvin Clark to retake the lead. And then what does Edward Waters do? They come right back, 6 plays, 37 yards in about 2 minutes, 17 seconds, and scores a touchdown with 16 seconds left, man. And that place went crazy. That place went crazy. And that was a historic game that was played at Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium in Jacksonville, Florida. It should be noted, Drew, something that I was hip to. Edward Waters up there in that northern, I guess you could say the northern east corner of Florida, is now the only division NCAA football program in that area. Matter of fact, they're the only one in Jacksonville.
Correct.
Jacksonville University ended their program in 2019. You also had, North Florida doesn't have a program. So really, with Edward Waters moving from NAIA to Division II, I mean, look, that's the NCAA program now. And that was a big day. That was a historic day. I had the pleasure of meeting a photographer from that area, Edward Waters grad. I mean, I could see the look in his eye when he said, I never thought I'd see this day. You and I know what used to be in that area where that game was. It was just a practice field, not much of anything. But to see the pride in his face, all credit to, A. Zachary Faison, president, Dr. A. Zachary Faison of Edward Waters, Paul Bryant, the athletic director, Coach Toriano Morgan, that entire staff, the athletic department, our good friend Joshua Jackson and everything they do within athletics. I saw the athletic programs helping out. I mean, Edward Waters, congratulations. I mean, you guys did a great job and should be commended.
And one other thing, Tiger fans, just be patient with them. Yes, there were first time on campus, there were a logistical item or two that I'm pretty sure they figured out, they were aware of. I don't care what kind of planning goes into a day like that. There's something that's going to come up that's going to be unexpected. They're going to get it right. Just give them time. They don't play at home again until Lane, and I believe that is at the end of September. I believe that's week 3 or week 4 when they next have Lane. So, hey, but it was an atmosphere, and just like any other HBCU, Bryan, that seemed like there was more people outside than there were inside, and the stadium was pretty much at capacity.
Yeah, I didn't. You came in a little bit later than me, so I didn't get a chance to see what was going on outside. But I know it's a good sign when you can look in the corners and you can see the young kids that had somehow propped up on cars, or I don't know if they were on milk crates or whatever they were on, but they were looking over the fence at the game. I almost wanted to, tell those kids, hey, this gate over here is open, but I didn't want to do all that. But the excitement I can see, the excitement.
Let's go to break on that one, Bryan.
The excitement that you can see on those kids' face when they looked over the fence and they were watching that game speaks to everything that was positive and great about that day. And congrats to Edward Waters. And no, even Florida Memorial, even though they lost, a big 180 from where they were just 365 days ago. So a lot to be happy about down at Florida Memorial, even though you lost that game. That's a young team still, and they're going in the right direction. So when we come back out of this break, our good friend Charles Bishop joins us, and we talk about the upcoming documentary series on his head coach, Coach Bryan. Stay tuned. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Bryan and AD. We'll be back right after these words. This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the Pregame Show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Texas Southern takes on Prairie View A&M for the Nix Durley Traveling Trophy and the Labor Day Classic on September 4th. Tickets available online at tsusports.com/LBC tickets.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports
Tell everybody
Network.
they can follow their dreams.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Joining us for this segment from that's two E's, the pregame show is none other than Charles Bishop. Charles, how you doing this evening?
How you doing, AD? It's nice to be on with you guys today.
Hey, got a big exciting day coming up for you guys there on the Jackson State campus. First of all prayers go out to everybody who is preparing and dealing with the storm that's coming through the area.
Oh, no doubt about it. I definitely want to send prayers out to the people in the path of the stormway. Please do whatever you need to do to protect yourself, protect your property, and protect your loved ones.
All right. But on the brighter side of things, tonight is the debut of Coach Bryan, a documentary about the first season there on campus for Coach Deion Prime Sanders. And we're going to take a quick look at the trailer for it. Then we're going to let you break it down for us, Charles.
Jackson State fans, it is real. Deion Sanders is your new head coach of the football program.
What I'm here for today is to understand what is the expectation that you have for yourself. What is the expectation that you have from the opening kickoff to the last second that ticks off the clock?
Trust me, we're going to win a lot of games in due time.
Extreme weather is creating a water crisis in Mississippi's largest city.
When it's tough on everybody else, it's just right for Jackson State because we believe.
The only difference from good and great is expectation. The only difference from great from best ever is expectation. What is the darn expectation that we have of ourselves?
You can't play this game forever, man. It's the only sport that it takes courage to play.
There's so many things that we deal with that has nothing to do with football.
There's almost no survivors for you right now. None.
We are looking to replace you as I speak.
It's turn up time, baby. It's time to eat, babe.
We can keep squeezing the lemon. Trying to get lemonade. We done squeezed that lemon so much, man, there ain't no more in it. That's why I keep my foot on the gas. That's why I keep my foot on your throat. That's why I keep my hand around your neck, because I'm crazy enough to believe in every one of y'all. That's my expectation. Now, what's yours?
Our 21st head football coach, Deion Coach Bryan Sanders.
Now, there's an expectation today that you win. Not only you win, you dominate. How you feel? And while you ponder that thought, give me my theme music.
All right, there it is. You just saw the preview, the promo for Coach Prime in that documentary. A three-part series, is that right, Charles?
Yes, indeed.
Three-part series. So one of the things that I got out of that preview was the word expectation. And I think I heard that I was counting after about the third time. I think I heard it about 5 times. So, you know, for me, as I listen to that preview and as I anticipate this series, I'm expecting to sort of maybe get an understanding of the expectation, maybe, and I guess the expectation that was and the expectation maybe that wasn't. And now here's Deion coming in bringing in this renewed expectation. Talk if you would about the Jackson State football culture expectation.
Well, as you well know, the Jackson State football culture, or the Jackson expectation, is one of high standards. We're talking about a program that's won 16 SWAC national championships, 2 Black College national championships. But you're talking about a fan base that expects this Jackson State football team to be right in the mix with regards to winning the SWAC championship. And over the past few years, that has fallen off. Since 2013 is the last time Jackson State played in the SWAC championship. So when you take a look at the expectations, I think what you'll really see with regards to this documentary is Coach Bryan trying to rebuild a culture, rebuild what the expectations are, because I think there is a difference between a current Jackson State fan that hasn't seen the standard and an older Jackson State fan that became accustomed to what the standard was.
Do you get a sense, and maybe I don't know if it'll come out in this video, but if you think back to your interactions, will we sort of get a behind the scenes look at what the secret sauce is for Deion Sanders himself? I mean, besides being one of those people that were touched by God with this great athletic ability, there has to be something else behind that. Do you think we'll get a sense, or maybe you can tell us, what is it that separates Deion from other in that 1% of great athletes, in this human population of ours?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. It's 2 words: work ethic. You're talking about somebody who's a shark. He does not stop. It is constant motion. And the thing that really jumps out for me is the way he is able to compartmentalize this, that, and the other, and still keep the focus on the main thing. It is phenomenal to watch up close with regards to Coach Sanders. But I tell you, his expectations, his standard is unwavering in terms of where he wants to see this Jackson State program. And he just has that sort of, that, like you said, that 1% of something. And it's no secret. It's work ethic, work ethic, work ethic.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Drew.
So Charles, let's get to the real question.
Mm-hmm.
When we tune into Barstool Sports to watch this documentary, will the members of the pregame show be on screen at some point in time?
That's $1 million question. We're gonna have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, but of course,
we have to wait and see because you're waiting to see, or you know the answer, you just don't want to tell us.
Well, that's called a tease. We'll see what happens. But I mean, I think we've had an opportunity to have unprecedented access with regards to the Jackson State program. And when we take a look at where we started with regards to this program in the spring, and in just sort of covering this Jackson State football program, we've sort of seen that adversity up close that a lot of the team dealt with this past spring, and we've seen so much. So it'll be kind of fun and interesting to sit back and watch everything that happened this past spring, how it develops over these, how the narrative is told over the next parts of the series.
Now, when you think back to the spring, what was that one thing that you expected to see happen that did not happen, or did not happen like you thought it would? And on the flip side, something that you were not expecting to happen that you saw that happened there when you think back on the spring season?
When I honestly take a look at it, I think the initial success Jackson State had in the spring kind of caught me a little bit by surprise. And again, you're talking about rebuilding a culture of dominance, rebuilding an expectation of winning. Myself, growing up as a child in the 80s, you can almost fall asleep at games because you expected wins. And that was what I, kind of tended to, that became the expectation. And that's kind of fallen off during this era of the SWAC championship era. Jackson State has only played in 4 SWAC championship games, only won 1. So it's the rebuilding of the culture. So the initial success, there was a win over Edward Waters, there was a win over Grambling. and you thought you kind of you still saw some gaps there, but it was the gaps were covered up, and those gaps kind of came to light as they played more games into the spring.
Again, Coach Prime debuts tonight as we're recording this, or Sunday evening. It's a 3-part series. Barstool Sports, I'm assuming barstoolsports.com will be featuring all 3 episodes, probably maybe every one a week or something of that nature. Yeah, 1 a week. Mm-hmm. Are they what's the time length on them? An hour, 2 hours? What do we know on the time length? I
believe it is an hour, yes.
Okay, it's an hour. So you sort of answered one of my questions, of where I thought I was going to go as it relates to Coach. But I'm curious, when I remember Coach Prime doing his other reality shows, his family was heavily involved in those shows. I mean, you got a chance. If you remember seeing those shows, they were on his ranch or his I don't know. I'm going to call it a ranch in Texas somewhere. And he had his grandma, he had the kids, a lot of family scenes, a lot of family life. Other than Shador, other than his significant other at the beginning of the season, we haven't seen much of family. We haven't seen much family for Coach Prime. Do you think we'll see some of that, or will this sort of more be focused on how Coach Prime and as a coach, maybe as a father to 2 players, interacts with other young men versus maybe getting into shining or showing a little bit of family and what that's been like?
That's a good question. I think it'll be an interesting mix of both in terms of just his interaction with all the players on the Jackson State team. But, of course, he's going to have a special connection with Shador and Shiloh as well. So I think you'll get all of that within the mix of this documentary, watching them interact up close. It is, a special bond between father and sons. And it is unique to have both of his sons playing for him at this HBCU. So they are getting this experience with him as well. So, I think he made this point, it gets no more invested than that when your children are involved.
Right.
Now, Charles, you're there. You get the pulse of the campus. What was the reaction of the student athletes and some of the other people around the university as this documentary was being filmed? Were they conscious of it being filmed? And like I know, some people, when their camera turn on, they're a totally different person than when their camera is off. So do you think people were authentic while they were filming it, or, people trying to get their 15 seconds?
No, I think people are obviously conscious of cameras being around this program quite a bit more now. And you're going to have, I guess, a mix of the typical SWAC fan who is sort of old school, like, that's too much. And then you will have a sort of this new generation, and they are so accustomed to having a phone in their hands and going live, being that personal celebrity. So I don't think it's too much to say that it's people are still being their authentic selves. I think we are sort of in that day and age now where with the phone in your hand, everybody is a celebrity. So you're not so caught off guard with having a phone or having a camera in front of you.
Of all the guests that have come in to interact with Coach Prime or come to Jackson or come to speak to his team, I'm asking you, Charles Bishop, which one of those kind of caught you by, maybe you were starstruck, or you were like, whoa, I really got something, or I took something away from that person that I didn't even think, was like that?
Oh, I'll say it like this. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. Okay. So we've had an opportunity to talk to Troy Aikman. And I can't say I had that starstruck moment, but I did look over and was like, that's my quarterback. That's Troy Aikman. That's my original QB1. So we had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Troy Aikman. Actually, that first game with Edward Waters, we had an opportunity to talk with Nate Newton, who dropped some tremendous gems. You'll find it out there on the Pregame Show YouTube page. But
Rattler. Just want to
Hey, former family rattler, yeah, exactly. But I tell you what, just being able to interact with guys that were part of that Dallas Cowboy dynasty, and that was phenomenal unto itself. I mean, there have been a lot of celebrities, but of course, you know, when you're talking to, you know, your quarterback from your team, that's a little special.
Yeah, no doubt. I get that sense. You know, when you talk to my QB1 of my team, it's a whole different feel. Do you think the kids, the players, do they gravitate to that, or are those guys so far removed in age? I mean, are those like legends that they maybe didn't get a chance to watch, but their parents enjoyed, or are they close enough that they still kind of like, okay, my ears are tuned in because that's somebody that is where I want to be?
Well, you know, and this is the sad part of being a Dallas Cowboy fan. Those championships were in the 90s, and this is 2021. So I'm sure there's some disconnect there with today's student athlete. And it's funny, I've been talking to a few coaches, and they will tell you to a man that today's athlete isn't so much tuned in with football the way that we a prior generation might have been tuned in with football. So I think it's sort of a fascinating socio thing to kind of take a look at.
I've heard that too from coaches. It's like kids nowadays. It's like I've asked kids in another sport, for basketball, for example. I say, hey, do you watch so and so? Nah, coach, I really don't watch. I'm like, what?
Right.
But you want to go to the NBA, but you didn't watch the games. But you watch some highlights on TV, but you didn't really watch the game, huh?
That's because it's not Madden and that B button.
Right. It's a fascinating dynamic. It really is.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so Charles, as we get out of here, tell us what you guys have going on after we get done with our SportsWrap episode. What do you guys have going on the pregame show?
Oh, well, we'll be getting ready to travel down to Miami. We will be, as you know, embedded with the program. We will be coming to you each day with reports talking about what Jackson State has been doing in preparation for the Orange Blossom Classic from Wednesday through to the pregame show. The main thing being the main thing, 90 minutes before kickoff, which is the pregame show. But we will talk all things Jackson State football. Hopefully we give you a little bit of insight from a coach's perspective, from an athlete's perspective, and from a fan perspective. So we're really looking forward to doing what we do down there in Miami.
And tonight, what are you guys going to be doing for us?
I'm sorry, say that again, AD.
And tonight, what are you guys going to be doing for us on the pregame?
Yeah, we'll have a live reaction shot to the documentary Coach Prime. So we're looking forward to, you know, just giving all our fans that insight into Jackson State's program.
All right.
Any final thoughts, Bryan?
No final thoughts. Like I said, I'm going to be tuned in, listening to see what takeaways Jackson State coaches took from Saturday night's games. You know, seeing teams that haven't played in 600 days versus, you know, obviously the one advantage Jackson State has, they played, but then again, it's a new roster. So it's like, what advantages, disadvantages were the takeaways from what they saw on Saturday? Is that something you can share with your guys and kind of say, hey, guys, be alert. Look at what happened to that team over there because of X, Y, and Z.
Well, you know, and that's very interesting, Bryan, because to use a wrestling reference, they are Team X. They are Mr. Unknown. So, you know, it's going to be fascinating to see what sort of Jackson State team you're going to see coming out this upcoming Sunday against the Florida A&M Rattlers.
That scares me. I'm not going to lie. That scares me. After seeing what I saw on Saturday, it scares me because, like you said, Team X and one team we've been talking about because you know all the characters. A lot of them are coming back from 2019, but then Jackson State has this group of really sort of unknowns. You've never seen them play together or interact together on the field. What's that going to be like? That's a dangerous situation for anyone who happens to be wearing orange and green. So just, you know, we can't wait. We can't wait. The countdown is on, Charles. 7 days away.
7 days away. It'll be a fascinating watch to see how this Jackson State team gels and how they perform next Sunday night. Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Well, congratulations to the Jackson State family. You know, congratulations to everybody. You guys, look, I'm one of Deion Sanders. I'm a big fan, you know, so I'll be tuned in watching Coach Prime and enjoying every minute of it.
Sure thing, man. And thank you guys for bringing me on. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Charles. For Charles Bishop from the Pregame Show and for his partner, Dealey. Make sure you tune in tonight, and we'll be right back after this break.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your family.
Yes, that sound means it's time once again for the 36th annual Labor Day Classic. Featuring the Prairie View A&M Panthers versus your Texas Southern Tigers for the Battle of the Lone Star State on Saturday, September 4th. Kickoff, 7 p.m. at BBVA Stadium. Don't forget the halftime battle of the bands as the TSU Ocean of Soul take on the PVA MU Marching Storm. Tickets are available online at www.tsusports.com/LDC tickets. Let's bring the Knicks Durley Traveling Trophy back to its rightful home.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Are we
Technical
live?
difficulties on the producer's part.
Are we live? I don't know. Are we?
We were live. We just got to push the audio button there from the production side. So we're gonna re-summarize everything. I wish y'all would have heard the conversations that we were having. You can see our lips moving, but no audio going out. And thanks, I guess Carlos still has power because he's watching down there in Baton Rouge, and he's the one who shot me a text like, "Hey, no audio." It happens.
Oh wow!
Good
Thank you,
teammate,
Carlos.
Charles. Good teammate. Way to be a good teammate, Charles. Carlos.
Yeah. So let's start over. You open that segment back up for us, Bryan.
Well, I think go back to Charles talking about we'll just come back to the point that he was making about some places are just a city of horrors, and that for Alcorn right now, Atlanta has been sort of that city, and so I'll let Charles kind of go from there in terms of what is it. Is this a circumstance? Just playing a MEAC opponent. He was in Atlanta. We were joking about that yesterday or this morning. Is it Atlanta? What's bad in Atlanta that all have problems right now when they travel to the ATL?
Well, yeah, it's Atlanta is a city of horrors as far as Alcorn football is concerned. Whether it's the Celebration Bowl and or the SWAC MEAC Challenge, we just can't seem to get it done, and it seems to happen in the same fashion. Again, special teams hurt us. It hurt us in the last couple of Celebration Bowls. It hurt us in the SWAC MEAC Challenge, whether it was a punt return or kickoff return. It was the case again in the MEAC SWAC Challenge. We just don't play a complete football game. We started out so well. We scored on our first drive. Second drive, we moved the ball down the field and missed a field goal. Then we start turning it over. We had 3 fumbles. Felix Harper loses 1. And so we had chances, to put Central on their heels, and we didn't do it. And then they just got confidence. They were able to run the football. They had 4 different backs get it done. Their quarterback, who, if you look at the analytics, if you look at the numbers, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. Richard had 3 rushing touchdowns in 2019. So you had to account for him. In their first 2 rushing touchdowns, he scored those. The stats definitely back that up. So, the Braves had their chances early, just could not get it done. And you have to credit North Carolina Central. Was it the case of Central winning it or the Braves losing it? I think it's a combination of both. And, the big question that's being talked about on social media, and I brought it up during the broadcast, was this Alcorn performance a byproduct of not playing in 600 and some odd days? And that's going to be talked about probably for the next couple of weeks. Rest, rust, whatever you want to call it. But you got to give Central credit. They hung in, they made plays, but we made way too many mistakes in all 3 phases. We lost our starting center. One of the big plays, turning points in the game in the 3rd quarter, we had our backup center in, snapped it over Felix Harper's head. That put us way behind the chains. That seemed to flip momentum, and we could never seem to get it back from that moment on.
Yeah, that was a key point when that happened, because I think it was a 16-13 game, and you were trying to answer, had just scored a touchdown to take the lead. Central kicked the field goal. You're trying to come back and answer, and then that happens. And then so you combine that with the punt, which happens, 2 plays later, and it's like, I'm curious, and I hope, let's be real. No one from Alcorn should be using the excuse about the time, because technically Central had a longer period since they played. It was 6:36 since Central played, and it was 6:16 for Alcorn. So I'm curious, Charles, given what the running game did with Richard from the quarterback position, but more importantly, from the running backs, was Alcorn aware? I hate to put it like that, but were they prepared for a running quarterback when the plays broke down, or were they prepared for Richard to do what he did in those situations where he got loose on the defense?
I think we did a good job with him, early on in terms of keeping him in the pocket. I think once the momentum changed and once they had a short field to work with, when you get inside the 10, inside the 5, you knew he was, and I even called it, during the broadcast, you got to watch Richard. He's probably going to try to punch this one in, and he did. So I think if you look at the film from 2 years ago, I'm sure the Braves did that they knew. I mean, he had 3 rushing touchdowns in 2019. So I'm sure they were aware of, how you got to account for him out there. I just think the Braves just couldn't quite execute and squeeze him enough to keep him from doing what he did. And then when you can run the football, I mean, football is a beautiful game when, quarterback's best friend is a running game.
Yeah.
And when you got a quarterback that can run the football like Richard, then you got Totten that can run the football. You had, Jordan Freeman had 72 yards. Richard had 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. Totten had 60 yards. I mean, they had 207 yards running the football. I never thought that would happen. Never. I mean, just looking at the numbers, the numbers would indicate that wasn't possible, but it did. And when you could run the football, that opens up so many other opportunities. And then, of course, Richard, 16 of 25, 184 throwing the football, is able to spray the ball around. I mean, they were able to pretty much get what they wanted. And we didn't get to Richard at all, whereas Felix Harper was sacked 3 times. And they brought pressure from Street. I thought that played a huge factor in the game as well.
All right, Charles. For some reason, it seems like Alcorn and the SWAC are allergic to the city of Atlanta. They do not perform well in Atlanta. They do not perform well against the MEAC team. Now, the MEAC is supposed to be the basketball conference, and the SWAC is supposed to be the football conference. Why is the basketball conference dominating the football conference in football?
SWAC fans like, we hate you, Drew. We hate you, Drew, for that question.
I'm gonna say this is my opinion. I think that when you look at the SWAC MEAC in football, and you look at the coverage, and you just look at what's out there, when the SWAC MEAC matchup happens, and even in the regular season, not necessarily SWAC MEAC Challenge or Celebration Bowl, if you just step back, I think you can safely say that SWAC teams get a lot more coverage than MEAC teams. All these different websites and all these different newspapers that are covering the SWAC, wall-to-wall coverage. Whereas in the MEAC, you don't have, to me, and I'm on the SWAC side of the fence, you don't have as much of that. So therefore, I think, in my opinion, might be wrong about this, but I think there's a chip on the shoulders of a lot of these MEAC teams. Like, why are these SWAC teams getting all the coverage and we're not? Okay, well, if that's the case, we're just gonna show them. And I think we've seen that from North Carolina A&T. We saw it with North Carolina Central. So I think when in football, when these matchups occur, there's a lot of synergy on the MEAC side because all the attention, just like this game, was on the SWAC team involved, Alcorn. Alcorn got all the attention. Good Morning America piece, College Game Day. Just all over the place. And, I'm not a gambling man, but if you look at the different gambling sites, Alcorn was anywhere from a 14 or 17-point favorite in this game. So no one gave Central a chance. I don't know how many people pay attention to that, but, Alcorn was the prohibitive favorite to win this game. And to have this happen, I think it shows that the MEAC can get it done, especially in the big games. I think 12-4 in the SWAC MEAC Challenge and what they've done in the Celebration Bowl, I think they're proving that, hey, despite all the chatter and all the talk and all the publicity, look at the records. Look at what's happened in the SWAC MEAC and look at what's happened in the Celebration Bowl. The records speak for themselves.
The one positive that I will bring up for Alcorn State was I think you guys now have you established there is no longer going to be a backfield. I don't think you can look back there and just think solely about Nico Duffy. Stafford Anderson had a big game. I thought he 105 yards on 7 carries in the first half. And I think in the game finished with 129 and a touchdown. Duffy had 63 yards. I would ask you, Charles, is that the big positive takeaway with the fact that Anderson is now established as a good primary, might be a good 1A, 1B kind of back with Duffy? And did they go away from did you not rely on the running game enough in that second half? What's your thoughts there?
To answer your first question, yes, I think Anderson, was clearly, he's a Northwestern State transfer, so he's going to be playing his old team in a couple of weeks. 128 yards. He had the 68-yard run on the second drive, which set up a score. We missed the field goal there, but clearly Anderson, we were feeding him. Nico Duffy, it's a change of pace, really. Stafford Anderson is that bruising back, and Nico Duffy can get you in space. So, you got that fire and ice type of thing going. We ran for 189. But, I think we made an effort to try to run the football. Our offensive coordinator, Elliott Ratton, he said, we're going to run that football. And I think the Braves tried to do that. But I think as time went on, it just wasn't there as visibly as it was in the first part of the game. And, whether we didn't pound it enough or whether Central just kind of collapsed everything. Could be a combination of both. But clearly, we have to be able to run the football consistently to make Felix Harper's job a lot easier. 27 passing attempts, that may be a little bit much for Felix Harper. We were behind, so you had to do that. You had to try to stretch the field. And I thought we had a pretty good game running the football, but the yards were hard to come by, I think, after that second drive. That first drive, that second drive, we were able to get some stuff done running the football. But after that, it was tough sledding.
Yeah.
All right. As we get ready to wrap up this segment, Charles, I need you to look ahead to someone else in the SWAC. This Thursday, Valley travels to Murray State. What should we expect in that particular game, Charles? And we're gonna bring you on. We're gonna put you in the hot seat. Give us a prediction on the game.
I really like Coach Dancy and the job that he's done there at Valley. He's taken what's given and presented and trying to make it work. Against Jackson State when they played last year, they were in the red zone 4 times, couldn't score. So I think he's got something going there. He's just got to continue to build on it. That's going to be a tough one. Murray State is a pretty good FCS team. And, going there, playing them up there, it's going to be tough. I think for Valley, what I can remember from 2 years ago, Valley just had a hard time keeping a quarterback healthy. They had like 4 or 5 quarterbacks and none of them were healthy. And I think, and if you don't have a healthy quarterback, you don't have a chance. So I think, for Valley, they've got a couple of guys that I think that can sling it a little bit. They can run the football, slow the game down. I think they have a chance, but it's going to be tough. Murray State's a quality FCS opponent. I think Valley's building this thing block by block, but it's going to be a tough challenge. I think it's going to be tough to go to Murray, Kentucky and get it done.
Yeah, Murray State is predicted to win the Ohio Valley Conference. 5-2 in the spring. Had a new coach, Dean Hood, who came in to that program in the spring and seems to have turned that program around a nice 180. And they're almost a 20-point favorite based on the numbers that I'm looking at against Valley. So I'm looking forward to it. Drew's favorite team in the SWAC to upset people and shock the system.
Thursday would not be the day for one of those upsets, though.
Well, I will say this, though. I will add this, and I think we need to probably have another conversation about this. We always talk about the SWAC versus the SWAC, SWAC versus the MEAC, but we got to remember something. The SWAC and the MEAC are what? They are members of the FCS, the Football Championship Subdivision. Right. What you're going to see this year is there are more of those matchups like Valley and Murray State. Alcorn's playing another FCS opponent in 2 weeks, Northwestern State. We need to have a conversation. I know fans don't want to talk about it, and that's fine. but we are a member of the football championship subdivision, and we're trying to get into the playoffs, which, a lot of people don't believe in it. But I think we need to have conversations about playing some of those teams and winning some of those games to really add more credibility to what we have as a conference. We need to play some of those teams, and we need to win some of those games. And hey, if Valley can go to Murray, Kentucky and win, that'll be one of the biggest wins that they've ever had. If Alcorn can beat, Northwestern State at home, that'll be a huge win for the Braves and bouncing back. But it's a huge win for the SWAC too, playing another FCS opponent and a quality opponent at that. That's another conversation we need to have. I know fans don't believe in it. We believe in the SWAC and the rivalry and the MEAC and all that, but I would like to see, and Alcorn was a part of 2 FCS playoffs. It was 1 AA back in the day. I was a part of that, Youngstown State, Louisiana, Monroe. And I would like to see more of that. And I know some fans would like to see that as well. So I'm anxious to see how we do against other FCS teams, albeit at home or on the road.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, because that conversation is part of that bigger macro conversation. We start talking about our conferences, our teams being recognized in national polls, our players being recognized by national media and scouts. Well, guess what? Yeah. It comes in these games against other FCS teams. And when you're constantly not covering the spread, not winning games, I mean, it just their perception of us ends up being less than. And so we may have a certain feeling, but at the same time, we want to see our teams win. So we need our teams to win. So we need Valley to look like that team that Drew thinks they can be. And, we need them to perform well out there in Kentucky. So, we'll be looking forward to it. So, Charles, you be safe out there, man. I don't know where Hurricane Ida is, or, how it'll be riding up the northern Mississippi state to you, but whatever comes, man, be safe up there. All right.
We sure will. I appreciate it. And we've had a couple of bands of rain, but trust me, the worst of this thing is yet to come in the next 12 to 18 hours. We appreciate it.
Right. All right. Well, you guys be safe, and we look forward to talking to you again. And we look forward to Alcorn taking the week off. They'll get a chance to kind of lick their wounds and regroup and be ready to take on Northwestern State in 2 weeks. So we'll be looking forward to that. All right, we're going to head to a break. When we come back, we're going to probably get to, I don't know, maybe a short segment, or we'll get to another guest when we come up. Just stay tuned to find out more. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap with Bryan and AD. We'll be back right after these words.
Can I get the now bar, please? $1. Have a good one. Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the Pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready, because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the Pregame.
The inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic is personal to me. It's more than a matchup between Tuskegee University and Fort Valley State University. My beloved father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, was a proud member of the Tuskegee Airmen. 922 brave pilots, also known as the Red Tails, fought in World War II. The Boeing Red Tails Classic is more than a celebration of HBCUs. It's a reminder of the Tuskegee Airmen's valor and sacrifice, the first class of black fighter pilots who trained at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama during the height of Jim Crow, fighting for America, while in many ways America fought right back against them. This inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic, this football game, is for them. And it's quite special that this game, which will be played at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, opens the 2021 college football season on Sunday, September 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. When you watch this game, please remember its larger meaning, that it's for a group who advocated for themselves while still facing prejudice and discrimination in the segregated army. The Tuskegee Airmen story hardly gets told enough. I, proud daughter of a Tuskegee Airman, join others who champion their legacy and how they influence generations of Black cultural and political leaders.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and AD here. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever it is that you are watching our show. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at MyBCSN1, the number 1. And of course, if you have not downloaded the Jericho Broadcast Network's app, go to your Google or Apple Play Store. Search MyJBN or MyBCSN, and that's where you can download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. The Black College Sports Network is a part of the Jericho Broadcast Network family. And not only will you get updates on all of the shows that are part of the Black College Sports Network, but there's some other goodies in there as well. So when you go to like and subscribe, make sure you look for that. If you're new, make sure you look for that that launch point. If it asks you, how did you hear about this app? Make sure you check the BCSN Sports Wrap. You know, we get a few extra credits for doing that. And want to also encourage you, make sure you're tuning into the BCSN Pod Zone, the premier place to listen to a variety of shows, HBCU content on blast. I mean, all kinds of stuff, almost a new show updated daily. So plenty of opportunities for you to catch up before and in between shows. For those of you who like to, on those long rides, those long 2-hour rides or hour-and-a-half rides to work or wherever you're going, you can just pump on, just put in a couple of shows, Spotify, whatever, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you go. That's where we are. You can find us. So we appreciate you tuning in and finding us wherever we are. All right, Drew, let's take one last, let's do this. We can do one of two things. Either take a quick little look back at the Classic for Columbus, the Big Cat Classic that was in Jacksonville, or we can kind of start to look ahead here on Thursday, because as you mentioned, not only do we have Mississippi Valley State playing on Thursday, but we've got 3, 4, 5 other schools, 5 other HBCUs playing on Thursday, all of them Division II. And so we can start to take a look ahead. What do you want to do?
Let's look ahead, Bryan. I'd much rather look ahead. Everybody saw what has happened in those games that occurred over the weekend. So let's take a look forward.
All right. So looking ahead here, as it relates to football, we've got Thursday, 7:00. We've got Lincoln, Missouri. That's the Lincoln Blue Tigers taking on Washburn. They're actually hosting Washburn, a Division II matchup. And so that's a home game for Lincoln. Lincoln played in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they attempted to, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, they played a game or two in the spring. I know they went down and, as we say, got a check for a game this spring. I think they played 2 games and went 0-2 back during the spring.
Right. So the last time these two schools played was 2019. Washburn won that contest 49-27. But the key thing I think that we're looking for as it relates to Lincoln is junior running back Hosea Franklin. That's the name to keep an ear out for. His sophomore season was 2019. He's only 5'7", from Memphis, Tennessee, 190 pounds. He ran for 1,359 yards on 226 carries for the MIAA conference, or in the MIAA conference, which he led. Broke Lincoln records for single season rushing yards and carries. Was a all super regional first team selection, all conference running back, fourth in the conference in all purpose yards, 132.5. Started all 11 games. Now, the one thing that sort of he didn't get in the end zone a whole heck of a lot. He only scored 5 touchdowns, but still, he was one of the top 10 rushers or rushing in terms of total yards and yards per game. So it's, we had a year off. He had a year off. We're hoping that sort of rejuvenated the legs. And I'm looking forward to seeing Hosea Franklin. I mean, that's a name that just sort of, I think what was about mid-season back in 29, if you can think back that far, Drew, where his name started kind of popping up on our radar.
Yes, he did. I believe he was one of the top rushers in Division II, if I remember correctly, especially when you look at yards per game. I think somebody there were a few players who beat him overall, but his yards per game were just tremendous. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but who else do they have besides Franklin? That's the question that the Blue Tiger fans want to know.
Yeah, that'll all come out in the wash, I guess. But so their Massey ratings has they sort of favor Washburn by 7.5 in that contest. So again, like I said, 2 years ago, 49-27 was the score. So we'll see what happens. And it's all, look, none of these teams played a year ago. So all of them have been sitting off 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I throw all those numbers out of the book personally, but I will see what happens.
We saw that this weekend.
Yeah. Don't trust any of these numbers out here that you see, folks. It's a tough time. Another game that'll be taking place on Thursday. Albany State will be traveling to Mississippi College. Albany State, of course, of the SIAC, the Golden Rams, looking to get back to their winning ways. Let's see. Mississippi College, a team that they lost to 24-17 back in 2019. That game also was at Mississippi College. 24-17 was the final score. Albany State had a 10-0 lead at the half before giving up 14 points in the third quarter. And so that game ended up being a lot closer in the end, but still counts as a loss. So now they get a return trip as they go back out to Mississippi College. Massey ratings thinks Mississippi College is about 14.5 points better than Albany State, with an over of about 50.5. So that game is Thursday at 7:00. Any thoughts there on Albany State, who opens their season against Mississippi College? Then they have a home game against Shorter University, and then they travel over to Valdosta before they get into the SIAC schedule.
Now, Albany State, arguably top 2 in the SIAC East. I do not believe this is a regional game as far as some of the other matchups that we have talked about for week 1, such as Valdosta State and Savannah State, which we know is a regional game. But this, once again, will go a long way in helping the SIAC out with their conference rating, so that the SIAC can possibly get a second team into the Division II playoffs. And keep something in mind, everybody. Division II does not go with automatic bids. They have preferred qualifiers, which means even if you're a conference champion, but your ranking is not high enough, you will not get into the tournament. See Kentucky State back in, I believe that was 2016.
All right. And one other division, well, actually, this isn't a Division II. This is actually more NAIA. as Texas College, the Texas College Steers, who will be coached by Greg Ellis, kicking off their season. They'll travel to Canyon, Texas, to take on West Texas A&M University Buffaloes. And that's a 7:30 kick, although it may be 8. Not really sure what the information is. I've seen 2 different times, one on the Texas College site and one from Massey. Massey thinks West Texas A&M is by far a superior ball club by about 41 points. My gosh. Now that could be a case of you just don't know what Texas College has. So
does anybody know what Texas College has?
Yeah, right. So if you know, and again, these teams have not played in over a year. So, you know, go figure.
And in NAIA, where the rules are a lot more liberal as far as how you recruit and when you can recruit, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what Texas College throws out there on the field. It throws out there may not be the proper term, but
yeah, they're part of the Sooner Athletic Conference, which also is the conference that Langston University is in. So there are 2 HBCU programs in that Sooner Athletic Conference. Matter of fact, after this West Texas A&M game, Texas College plays Langston on September 11th. So that'll be a matchup of 2 HBCUs in the Sooner Conference. So those are 3 games. We got a few more games coming up. Let's take a short break, and then we come back. I think we've got our guest. So we probably have our guest, Kris Ferguson, who'll be joining us from D2Football.com to talk to us about the CIAA. And so we look forward to catching up with Kris. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap with Bryan and AD. We'll be back right after these words.
Both of my great-grandfathers have been a part of that study. My roots in environmental health come from my great-grandfathers. They were sharecroppers, and then later they were able to own land for their family for generations to come. My ancestors' connection to the land has given me a strong care for our environment and how that environment influences human health. I am a fierce advocate for equitable treatment for all. The ways in which COVID-19 ravaged Black communities showed that we have underlying vulnerabilities when something like a pandemic hits. The path from tragedy to triumph travels along the path of learning.
Yes, that sound means it's time once again for the 36th annual Labor Day Classic. Featuring the Prairie View A&M Panthers versus your Texas Southern Tigers for the Battle of the Lone Star State on Saturday, September 4th. Kickoff, 7 p.m. at BBVA Stadium. Don't forget the halftime battle of the bands as the TSU Ocean of Soul take on the PVA-MU Marching Storm. Tickets are available online at www.tsusports.com/LDC tickets. Let's bring the Nick's Durley Traveling Trophy back to its rightful home.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan Fulford, AD Drew, and joining us, the beard's looking lovely. It's been a while since we've seen him. My man, Kris Ferguson from D2Football.com. Kris, man, we are, glad to hear that you are safe, that you're able to kind of get away from Hurricane Ida. And, man, just tell us how you're doing right now.
Doing pretty good. It's been an incredible year trying to get a lot of things done. Graduate school, working full time. I've been trying to keep track with the CIAA. There are a lot of changes that have happened. So I've had like a notepad, scribbled everything everywhere that I get my hands on. Man, it's been crazy, but to be blessed, saying that I'm blessed is an understatement.
True. What's the toughest thing with as you're going through your notes, trying to catch up and see what's new and what's happened? What's your take on what's one of the toughest things facing the CIAA and facing CIAA teams this upcoming year?
Well, I think the biggest thing overall is there's just so many unknowns with staff, with players, with staff. Who's going to be able to step up and step into these roles that a lot of folks who either transferred out or graduated is a real question. I think you're going to see teams that are going to be a lot younger, which means that there's going to be a lot of things to figure out on both sides of the ball and on special teams. And that tends to lead to a lot of mistakes, turnovers, penalties, all of which will have to be sorted out pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Now, Bowie, the one thing that hasn't changed is it seems like everybody's love for Bowie State. We left in 2019 and they were Black College national champions in the under D1s and the small division. Obviously we had an under Division One poll rankings rather, and other people had small school, however you want to call them, but mid-major. I mean, they were cream of the crop. I mean, obviously 11-game win streak in the regular season, of course, disappointing start to the playoffs, but they've come back, pretty much undisputed in a lot of polls, ranked, I think, 18th in Division II. What's your take on Bowie State, and should we be cautious after what we saw last night in Atlanta with Alcorn State? Should we be cautious about our high praise and our thoughts about Bowie State going into this season?
So, I mean, last night was really incredible. I mean, Central is trying to rebuild, and they kind of had an opportunity to get some guys in to kind of help with the process, and a year to get a system under their belt. So, the comparison between Alcorn and Bowie is a really interesting one. But listen, the CIAA is a pretty consistent league. There's always one team that kind of surprises us, but with the amount of returning players, history will suggest that they're going to be right there at the top of the pack. There's just no question about that. I think absent, a major injury or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kris, when you look at these preseason polls for CIAA, obviously Bowie's on top, like Bryan has just said, followed by Virginia State, Virginia Union. Shawan has even snuck up ahead of Union in some polls. But we go to the South. Seems like there's no respect for the South. Fayetteville, we know what they have done or have not done in the CIAA championship game. Yeah. Other teams, not named Winston-Salem, have gone to the championship game and have not performed, for lack of a better word. So what can we expect out of the South, and shall the South rise again when it comes to the CIAA?
Man, that's a tough one. There is so much strength in the North right now. You've got Fayetteville State that needs to replace a quarterback. Their quarterback from 2019 transferred. And you got Stevie Green, who's now gone. His eligibility was done. So they have some questions on offense. Actually, I'd probably say that my favorite to come out of the South is Shaw, because Shaw has a lot of returning individuals on offense. When you talk about Torrin Campbell at quarterback, Sydney at running back, Wide receiver is a little bit of a question mark. But then you've got Devin Hunt coming back from injury, and a number of other guys on defense. They got all the right pieces to challenge and push Fayetteville State this year. And that's really my favorite. I think Winston's got some transfers, but that may help them out. And then the rest of the South is kind of fighting for the basement. I think after that, there's just too many changes and not enough depth there. But make no mistake, I think the problem is just the North has a lot of really solid coaches. They got systems in place that have been there for some time. Bowie's loaded. Virginia State has a strong running game, managed to keep much of their staff intact. You've got Chowan has got too many questions, in my opinion. I think they're a little too high, as much as I like to follow them, and I think their offense can be fun to watch. And Virginia Union, they don't have Tobias anymore, Tobias Taylor. And so I think that kind of knocks them down and makes them a bit vulnerable. And they also lost Sterling Hammond on defense. So, I think that if you look at the two divisions overall, there's still so much strength. Chowan will be probably top of the South, close to top of the South. Certainly top three, I think. And that just speaks to, and they're probably the fourth best school in the CIAA North. I mean, that's just how much strength you have between the two divisions, I think.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at the schedule as I'm pulling up my grid here of the upcoming schedule, and we got to talk about this week one. Well, I know we're going to talk about in a second. We're going to talk about the games for Thursday, but let's kind of look ahead. How big of a game is this Bowie at Delaware State game to open up the season? What we know, Delaware's got a lot of freshmen. I think when I looked at their roster, they got about 40 freshmen. But I'll be honest, I didn't think Delaware State looked bad when I saw them in the spring. I think Coach Milstead is really doing some positive things with that program. So what kind of challenges, or where's this game put for Bowie State? What's your thoughts on this game for them?
I think Bowie State is actually a slight favorite in this game.
Sure.
And I think, and I would say, because again, you got so many returning pieces. But Bowie State, the strength of Bowie State is that their defense keeps them in games. You got a lot of, Dimitri Morcell in the secondary, the CIAA Defensive Player of the Year 2019. You've got Joshua Pryor and that as an anchor on the defensive line. I mean, these guys played, the last game they played was against Carson Newman. And Bowie State didn't lose that game because of defense. They scored 17 points, and they don't see an option-based offense very frequently. And I mean, that just tells you how skilled the Bowie State coaches are. And there's no disrespect to Delaware State or any of the other guys, but these guys managed to squeeze and make lemonades out of not a lot of lemon and certainly not a lot of sugar, and they found a way to make it work. And so I do think that Bowie's a slight favorite here. I think that the question becomes, Bowie State really struggled in the red zone. They don't have the rushing game that can kind of pound you in the red zone in the 20s and less. That's where they struggle. And so if they can find a way to maybe they need to incorporate a fullback or something. Maybe they need to find a way to incorporate some big sets. That I think, or in the red zone, they're a very dangerous team, not just for Delaware State, but for much of D2, I think.
Conference games, and one of the things that I found interesting when I looked at who everyone's playing, really a lot of the schools are playing other Division II schools. I mean, really with the exception of like Johnson C. Smith and Livingstone, who are playing a couple of HBCUs and Elizabeth City State. Everybody else has at least 2 or 3 Division II schools on the roster. It can is that a push maybe for the CIAA to kind of strengthen itself in the region? What's your take on that?
So it's important to note when it comes to like the playoffs that, you know, you're trying to schedule in-region games, and in-region means that the CIAA school is going to play either another HBCU like the SIAC or some other HBCU that's Division II, or the Gulf South Conference or the South Atlantic Conference, or a school that's in a state that's nearby, like bordering the state that you're in. So, like for Maryland, you know, or Virginia, going to the Mountain East, for example. A lot of these games that these teams are scheduled are beyond those boundaries, which means that they don't count. They don't have as much weight in terms of regional standings, but they do carry some weight for overall and strength of schedule. The one thing that maybe a lot of viewers may not understand is that, you know, nobody wants to play a Bowie State or Virginia State, which has those games, unless they travel to them. And they don't always want to have a home and home game. They may have a one-off game. If you think about, like, Bowie State was going to travel to Texas A&M Commerce, which I was looking forward to that because that's where I'm at graduate school. And I was going to be really, really excited, you know, for them to take on that game and go all the way to Texas to do it before the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
But you know, that was a one-time deal. So, you know, for them to get a Great Lakes team in Saginaw Valley to do a home and home and get the home game first is a big deal to me. I think the Ohio Dominican Virginia State game, I don't know if that's a one-off game or if that's a home and home. Probably it's going to be a one-off game with some sort of guarantee. But that's an out-of-region game for Virginia State. But it's a game that I love to see as a D2 person. I think it's a good measuring stick to do that. So, you know, I think that these games, New Haven and Bowie State, have history. I love that game as well. Winston State and USC Pembroke, that's a rivalry. And Catawba, that's a rivalry. And some of these other, you know, especially playing the South Atlantic, those are easy games for the CIAA South to get to. They're either in-state or continuous state anyway. So you know, the South has a lot of benefit of distance and being able to travel to these games and get somebody kind of close by. The North doesn't have that luxury. And on top of that, you know, that's tantamount to how strong those teams are and how consistent they are. As you don't get a lot of schools that want to play them, and even playing a Super Region 2 school is not easy. But you know, the Virginia Union and Valdosta State, that's an in-region game. That's going to be really interesting. They got probably a home and home, and they're traveling to Richmond first. And Lenore Ryan the same way. They went to Richmond a year or two ago. Now they're going to Petersburg, right down the road, in the front end of what probably is a home and home. So I think it's really good to see that these schools are willing to play in-region games and actually take on some of the higher level schools and higher level CIAA schools and know that it is going to be a dogfight.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at some of these games coming up here on Thursday. We've got Shaw traveling to Wingate on Thursday, 6 p.m. Wingate, Massey thinks Wingate is about 16.5 points better than Shaw. You like Shaw. What do we know about Wingate, and what's your thoughts there?
Wingate is a team that typically has they're typically balanced offense. They typically have a really good rusher, and this year they do have one, and as running back Peoples, he was very productive in that running back spot and continues that tradition. They like to surprise you with a speedy wide receiver as well, or two, and their defense is a pretty stout defense. I mean, Wingate is generally a top level South Atlantic team. They have been to the playoffs in very recent memory, I think within the last 2 years, they have been to the playoffs and don't really let up very seasoned coaching staff. A little context, a little history is that Wingate and Fayetteville State have played and numerous times over the last several years. And I think the closest that Fayetteville State has gotten to them it's to win, even in a home-and-home arrangement, has been 10 points. I think Wingate will be the favorite in this game. It doesn't mean that Shaw certainly won't have something for him, but I think that they'll run out of gas against a Wingate.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Fayetteville State does play Wingate. They travel there in week 2 of the season, so they that's on their schedule after Fayetteville plays Elizabeth City to open the season. Shawan goes to Mars Hill on Thursday. Mars Hill, Massey thinks Mars Hill is about a 10.5-point favorite over Shawan. We do know Bryce Witt is back for Shawan. We knew now you sent out an interesting tweet about Shawan and is it Deshaun Stevenson, right?
Withington.
I don't know where I get Stevenson from, but Withington. Yeah. What's the story
there? Basketball, Bryan.
Okay, thank you. Withington. I had the first name right. I should have stopped there. What do we know about him on the roster at Shawan? Because you were asking that question via Twitter.
Yeah, so I actually play fantasy football for Division II on the division2.com, division2football.com website. When we were doing the draft, it was like there was a noticeable omission on the returning roster. It was Withington. I'm like, where's Withington at? I looked at the roster again. I don't see him on there. So, I kind of wondered, if maybe somebody had some information that, it's kind of like a milk carton. Where's Withington? And you got information, send me a DM. I'm kind of interested to know myself. I don't know if I need to draft him off a fantasy football team or not, but I drafted him like last. It was the very last player I drafted. And make no mistake, Withington was a really big part of Shawan's resurgence on offense. Bryce Witt, he's incredible. He's going to probably end up with the second or third most offense in CIAA history, I think, unless he has this monster year to take over Amir Hall, which is, kind of walks on hollow ground. But, Bryce Witt has had such a productive career, and he started as a true freshman. And the guy just, he does a little bit of everything. He can run, he can throw, he can bulldoze and truck people. But the problem is that Shawan got hit really hard with transfers. He had a lot of transfers out of the program, and now they got to restart with a lot of freshmen and redshirt freshmen. And so it's really, really hard to get a read on Shawan at this point. And Mars Hill had the benefit of playing spring ball. Not that they played against a Tusculum team that was loaded, and now those guys are kind of gone now, but. They played against them and Limestone, and Limestone was a bit of a shootout. These guys, they can against some of the lower teams, they can run up the at least offense, and they don't defend particularly well. But Shawan doesn't either, so they're like carbon copies of each other. Right. And I think in that situation, I think Mars Hill has the edge, only because they have had a few more reps with some replacement players from the 2019 season.
Well, newsflash, Kris, I was just checking. He is not still on the roster. He is not on the roster as of right now. So anyone out there listening, if you know where Deshaun Withington is, and we pray, nothing serious has happened, but we're looking, where is Deshaun Withington at? Somebody send us a note. Let us know at my BCSN1 or at D2KFerg is where you can hit Kris up on Twitter. Let us know, because man, he was special. He was fun to watch. He put up some outstanding numbers. All right, Kris, before we got to get ready to head out of this segment, but I thought before we go, give us a prediction. Who's in the CIAA championship game?
I think that prediction probably is going to be Bowie State and Shaw. And I know that if I totally miss on the CIAA South selection, that Richard Hayes is going to probably let me know one way or the other. Either I'll see him at the championship game and he'll tell me then, or he might even send me a DM or something. So I think that it really does come down to Fayetteville State reloading, and they certainly have the guys to do it, at least in the running game for sure. And they do have a stout defense. A lot of good players coming back on defense. I do think that they're going to get a real challenge from Shaw. Winston State's a huge question mark, but I think Shaw is going to get over that hump this year. I really do. Yeah, those are my picks. All
right, we heard it there first. Shaw versus Bowie State. It's good to see a little bit different, be a little different sauce in the championship mix and see what happens. So, hey, make sure to go to d2football.com. Check out all of Kris's work. He's back. They putting him back to work because we got football. And then note there's no better follow on Saturdays than at D2KFerg, especially in that Saturday afternoon slot from like 12 to 4. Just put Kris on you can tie it to your text message. So that way, every time he sends a tweet, he gives great tweets and updates about the CIAA football during that, because thankfully all those games are in the afternoon. So that's kind of one of the nice things about the CIAA football. They're all in the afternoon. So we appreciate you, Kris, and we love, we'll definitely have you back on and talk about games during the course of the season. All right.
Always a pleasure.
All right, man. Be safe. We're coming back with a short break, and then we're going to send it over to the pregame show at the top of the hour. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap with Bryan and AD. Be back in just a short moment.
It's been difficult because I hadn't been able to see my grandchildren.
An expression on someone's face when you do something nice for them.
I miss all my friends in school.
Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccine.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Texas Southern takes on Prairie View A&M for the Nix Gurley Traveling Trophy and the Labor Day Classic on September 4th. Tickets available online at tsusports.com/LBC tickets.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for mental health and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and AD, we want to give a special shout out and thanks to our guests today, Charles Bishop, Charles Edmond, and Kris Ferguson. Drew, any interesting comments over the last hour or two? I know we haven't been able to get to them, but
shout out to Carlos Bryan watching us as he prepares for the storm in Baton Rouge. He says SU has 3 of the 4 SWAC victories for what it's worth. We were talking about those out-of-conference victories for the SWAC. Will Sincere is in the building. Says FMU is in the house. Happened to met Will outside the game yesterday and talked to him outside the stadium for about for about 10 minutes.
Appreciate you, Will. Make sure to share the network with people, man. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate the support, Will. Q-Dog says, Edward Waters University, M4 1974 says, keep up the good work. Hashtag AAMU.
All right. Appreciate it. Hey, I don't look, I'm still trying to find the backstory on Edward Waters. The greatest troll job that you'll ever see happened when Edward Waters scored their touchdown to take the lead with 16 seconds. And then they dropped a video that said, FMU, what is it? FMU, we got time today. They dropped a video, literally a video right after they scored to take the lead. It's called "We Got Time Today." I don't know the backstory, so I'm still researching and trying to find out.
We've got to get in touch with Joshua Jackson. Have him come on and explain that.
I sent him a text. He was just so euphoric and happy. I know he didn't hit me back, but yeah, I'm telling you what. All I know is Edward Waters went nuts, and I kind of looked over my shoulder at Florida Memorial fans, and they just had this look like, oh man, no, they didn't.
And we're not talking about a 15-second video, Bryan.
It was a 2-minute song.
Matter of fact, they had to stop it, do the next play, and then they picked it back up. It was so long.
Yes, and Dr. A. Zachary Faison had a role. I mean, he was spitting bars in it. The president, hey, look, when the president of your university is spitting bars in a song after
they don't call him millennial prayers for nothing.
Hey, look, he just dropped. Look, I don't know what the rest of you presidents are doing out there, hip hop prez and all the other prez. Hey, look, he's. We might have to come up with a new award of HBCU Sports President of the Year, because right now he's in the lead. He just surpassed our president over at Virginia State, who was doing the viral videos and taking students on one-on-one. So wow, that was awesome. Okay, Drew. So
let's pick up this show and get out of here, Bryan.
Yeah, look, we're gonna be back. You're gonna see another episode of the SportsWrap Thursday afternoon. It'll be our preview, our week 1 preview show, and we'll kind of break down the games, break down the lines, some of the interesting analysis and tidbits to get you ready for a big day of college football, big day for HBCU football. HBCU football is back, and we are proud and happy to be there along with so many others in this space to be able to tell you about it and share the experience. So you make sure you like and subscribe, not only us, but subscribe to those other networks and media outlets as well. Let them know you appreciate the content, because nobody's going to tell our story like us. And the algorithm gods, they need to know that you're out there paying attention. So make sure to like, share, and subscribe to everything you see. Final thoughts, Drew?
Week 0, exciting. There was only 3 games, though. Wait till we get a full slate next weekend. I'm gonna be overwhelmed. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And be safe down there in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Southern Louisiana, Southern Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, that whole region.
Yep. Make sure you stay logged on here on the Black College Sports Network, because coming up next is the pregame show as they get you ready for Coach Prime, the documentary series that will be on barstoolsports.com, of course, covering Jackson State head coach Deion Sanders. So for all of our guests, and of course for AD Drew, I'm Bryan Fulford. Thanks for watching and listening. God bless. Be safe, and take care of each other. Mask up when you can.
Holla.
But my beats, they are hard.